country intentionally sinks airplane into the ocean for a clever reason. Usually, when you hear about an airplane sitting at the bottom of the ocean floor with its wings covered in rust, that can only mean one thing. Some kind of tragedy has occurred. It's not every day that people intentionally choose to sink an airplane. There's usually no real reason for it. However, this is exactly what one country pulled off as part of a genius idea that no one else has ever thought of doing. The Kingdom of Bahrain is an archipelagic country located in the Persian Gulf. Attached by bridge to Saudi Arabia and only a short trip away from Qatar, Bahrain has an interesting history and perhaps an even more fascinating present right now. Despite its travails, Bahrain remains a beautiful urban paradise on the water. Because of its proximity to Saudi Arabia, many flock there for the less stringent rules, including the allowance of alcohol and nightclubs. Today, the nation of almost 1.5 million people is wholly independent. For many decades, beginning in the late 1800s, it was a British protectorate with limited sovereignty over its own rules and policies. Back then, pearls were Bahrain's most valuable commodity. The majority of the country's men were once employed in this industry. Not only were the pearls bountiful, but they were also of the highest quality around. Unfortunately, scarcity measures during the Great Depression of the 1930s put an end to the economic benefits of these graceful wares. The country needed to find something else to depend on. In 1931, they struck gold. Well, actually, they struck oil. The discovery of petroleum led to an entire overhaul of the Bahraini economy. However, no finite resource can be relied upon forever, so soon, Bahrain had to craft another money-making scheme for the future of the country. 40 years later, in 1971, Bahrain finally achieved independence. Ever since then, the country has been trying to improve its economy through tourism, an effort that has created some pretty unusual circumstances. This brings us to the extremely drastic step the kingdom took in order to get tourists to flock there. It dropped a 70-meter-long Boeing 747 into the ocean, and then stepped back to see what would happen. The first thing that happened was that the country broke a pretty insane record. Bahrain is now responsible for having dropped the largest intentionally sunken aircraft ever placed into the ocean. However, there was more to its scheme than just that record. The dropping of the plane was only the first step in a much larger plan to achieve greatness. Once government officials got this master plan in their heads, they just couldn't focus on anything else. The mission needed to be completed. The Kingdom of Bahrain set out to create the largest underwater amusement park in existence. The sunken plane would serve as the main attraction, giving its hulking mass, but it was far from the only oddity curious visitors could peruse. There would also be an entire model of a pearl merchant's house, an ode to the economy of days gone by. We can only imagine that the submerged structures will be as eerie to swim through as they are beautiful. This grand undertaking wasn't just meant to boost tourism and aid the growing economy, however. The creation of this underwater theme park serves a much more noble purpose. The park, known as Dive Bahrain, will help to protect the country's natural environment and rich resources by providing a habitat wherein biodiversity will be able to flourish. The plane, the merchant's house replica, and other sculptures will all serve as artificial coral reefs, structures that are becoming increasingly common as environmental issues threaten the existence of naturally occurring reefs. Heightening levels of coastal development, growing amounts of sediment in the water, and increasing temperatures have coalesced to create the perfect storm of factors that have killed off much of Bahrain and the world's natural coral reefs. Because of this, you might think the introduction of artificial reefs is a great idea with no downsides. However, some experts have taken issue with the plane, particularly due to the composition of its materials. Professor Adriana Jimenez stated, Their materials can be subject to corrosion, passing heavy metals into the seawater and affecting the surrounding marine organisms, and that loss of structural integrity could potentially affect marine life in the living area or become a safety threat to visitor divers. Authorities have looked into these concerns. Experienced divers have already toured the site multiple times, attempting to ensure that it remains safe for expert and more casual divers alike. This monumental, record-breaking step that the Kingdom of Bahrain has taken will certainly go down in the history books. They knew from past examples that incredible efforts can help restore the environment and increase tourism at the same time. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future videos.